through the InTray within Invitbox. The InTray is where bills are presented for first stage approval. Electronic bills transition directly into the inbox when sent to the company at Invitbox address, and scanned bills also appear within the InTray once they have been processed within the Unknowns tab. So if we just first of all briefly look at the layout of this InTray, and this is the same layout that each of the InTray, the approved and the signed off tabs will follow. You have three panels. Panel 1 presents a summary data of each of the invoices. Panel 2 presents the actual invoice image, the original image, and panel 3 presents three different sets of information. First of all, it presents the actual invoice detail that the system has automatically stripped out. It also presents, if you click on email, the actual original text that came with the original email when the invoice was sent, and thirdly the notes section, which we'll come to very shortly. So you'll notice here if I click on Wendy's Wines, down in panel 3 here, all of this information has been presented, and this has happened automatically. So we've got the document type. In this scenario, we've got a line item invoice because there's actually products and quantities and unit pricing. Then we've stripped out automatically the supplier, the GL coding. If there was a project or a tracking category or a class, that would also be preset as per your settings when you set up the supplier profile. We then stripped out invoice number, invoice date, due date, purchase order number. Now, if I click View Details, this will expand this third panel where you can see there's additional fields that can be pre-populated or can be manually filled in. And also you'll see we expand out so you can change tax codes, GL coding, or any tracking category that you may have set up will also be displayed here. We can display up to 2 separate tracking categories. So just for now, I'm going to reduce this. Okay, so just to explain what we're looking at, first of all, we've got product code and description in this scenario. We've got the unit price, and then we also automatically detect which rows are taxed or not. And as you can see, we've got 4 rows of GST and 1 without, and we have detected that. Below the actual detail of this invoice, the actual line items, you'll notice we've got 2 columns. The left-hand column is the information that we have actually extracted from the footer. So you're looking at this actual raw information from the invoice or bill. Column 2 here, which in this scenario matches up, has been calculated by Invitbox. So we do a set of sanity checks based on your local preferences and settings to do with tax, and make sure that the tax amount that's been calculated on this bill by the supplier is actually correct. So if, for example, I have to just add a random row, you'll notice that we throw up a red box to say this is not correct. So I'll delete that. So what you'll note there is that all of these boxes can be edited. You can change descriptions, quantities, you can change pricing, if it's taxed or not. You could change the actual tax rate for any reason, if you have a different tax rate, GL coding, etc. Everything is editable. So although we strip out the information, we do that with 100% accuracy once the mapping is set correctly. You can change it at any stage, due dates, whatever, totally changeable. Okay, now if I just go back into View Details, I'll just explain how these 3 drop downs would work. So the tax code, you'll notice that on the line, you can change each one on the line. Okay. Now if you do wish to change all to the same thing, you can go to this bottom drop down and you can choose from here. So if I wanted to change all of my GL codes to freight, we do that and they all change to freight. Similarly with the project as well. Just reset that for now. Have a look at the notes section. So you'll notice here I've already left a note on 17th of January, 11:26, and I can leave another note. And you'll see that this will start to gather up an audit trail of notes. Now once you leave a note within Invitbox, it can never be amended. So please keep that in mind. Once it's there, you cannot change or delete these notes. They are there forever. The whole benefit of notes is that as you leave notes, or as other users leave notes, you will always be able to see and effectively have a discussion on the invoice level. So if I was to move this bill or invoice through to the next stage, the second approver will be able to see my notes as per the bill. And I'll touch on that in just one moment. Just before we go through the notes and approving, I just want to show you a couple of other features that we also have in the InTray. If I click onto this top drinks invoice, you'll notice these boxes are green and red, and as I hover over the boxes, it's displaying to me the actual price. So the green boxes are indicating the price is correct, and the red boxes are indicating that we've been overcharged. So that's our price checker feature in action. Very simply, you can upload a 2-column spreadsheet from your supply chain with the product code or description and the unit price, and we will simply automatically in real time price check every single line for you. Okay. You might also notice here in panel 1 we've got a few icons. The inventory icon, for example, so we can send all of the line item information to separate inventory systems. For more information, see a separate inventory tutorial. You'll also notice this red icon, so we've highlighted to the user that this is a duplicate. So once we detect that an invoice has already been received within Invitbox, we display this to you. If I click on that, it takes me to the filing cabinet and displays where the 2 copies are. One in the InTray, one in the approved, so I can effectively just delete, trash that invoice that's in the InTray because I already have one in the approved. So for the InTray, we've pretty much covered most of the actual layout and data that's been extracted. So what are the options from here? So as a first approver, I really have 3 options. I basically want to either approve this invoice if I want to pay it, or I may want to delete it if I don't want to pay it, or the other option is I may want to dispute it. So if I go more, dispute invoice, this will actually move the invoice through to this disputed tab along the top, where it will effectively just sit until you contact the supplier and resolve the dispute, whether that be overcharging or whatever that may be. Obviously, when you would do that, you would leave notes. So you would say in dispute because of whatever. Once the dispute's resolved, you can leave a note with detail as to why it was resolved, and then you can return this invoice to the InTray. And from here, then you can approve it, along with if there was, for example, a credit note, which would also be sitting in the InTray. You could approve the 2 through. Okay. The other option, as I mentioned, is you may want to trash it, but in most circumstances, when you receive an invoice, you're going to approve it. So very simply, you click the green button and the invoice transitions through to either the Approve tab, if you have set up your account to have multiple approvers, or if you simply set your account up for just one approver, user only, it will transition through from the InTray to the Signed Off tab, because this Approve tab will not be here. It will not be visible if your settings on the account are for user only. You'll notice the Groups column. Here we've got cleaning, drinks and expenses. For more information on these, there is a separate groups tutorial, but just bear in mind that if you have groups turned on, when you're in the InTray, you will only see relevant invoices within the group that you are assigned to. Okay? Now, just before we finish off, I just want to quickly run through these additional options under the More tab. So we have Dispute Invoice, which we've already discussed. Email to me will simply send you a copy of the actual invoice to your email that you're logged in. Invoice Unreadable is, there's more information on this in the support section. It should not apply to many users, so I'll just leave that for now. Mark as unread, straightforward enough, marks the email as unread. Price check invoice, you would use this if you need to rerun the price checker. Remap invoice, this is used if for any reason the data that's been extracted may not appear to represent what's on the invoice. Again, very rarely used, but this is how you would remap an invoice, send it back to the unknowns. Send invoice task, there's a separate tutorial on this. Show invoice history, so at any stage you can access a fully tax compliant audit history of every single touch point on the bill within the system.